Hello and welcome to PDPC episode 4. My gosh, I never thought we would have gotten this far. I am your host, Ben Wong, and with me is...
Roxanne Chu.
How are you, Roxanne?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm also good. I'm drinking my coffee because I accidentally made 3 cups of it.
The afternoon
Yeah,
cup.
nothing like a good afternoon coffee to really spice things up. Um,
Is it spiced coffee?
it is not. It is just
All right.
regular old La Colombe coffee.
Is it La Colombe or La Colombe?
La Colombe Bay.
Okay.
Baby. La Colombe baby. Maybe that's what it should be.
No, that could be your brand of
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah, that'll I might get a strong finger wag from them though
Yours
for
will be like La
blatant theft.
Colomben.
La Colomban.
Mm.
La Columbin there done that. No, that's too much. That's too long.
So what's been new since the last time we chatted?
Oh, nothing. I'm still a few days into that ramen broth that we may have mentioned in the last episode. And a
Okay.
lot of it is just kind of me waiting at this point. Waiting and straining fat.
Oh, have you read those stories where people made the mistake of straining the broth, but they dumped
What?
they dumped the broth down the sink?
Oh no. that sounds awful. I mean, on it, there's a good like instinct to like, oh, I need to strain this, so I'll just dump
Because
this because
usually you want the solids, not
yeah,
the
usually you
liquid.
want the stuff, not.
I
Oh
think
man, that's really
don't do
terrifying.
that. Please don't do
I
that.
I really hope I never do that. Um,
All
but
right.
anyway, that's enough about us. Let's introduce our guest for today.
Hi, my name is Ming Yuan Low. Hello.
Hello, Ming.
Welcoming.
Thank
And
you.
traditional clap around the microphone that no one can see. Amazing, beautiful.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us
Thanks for
for
having me.
episode 4. We're now recording for the first time after releasing the podcast. So now you are now officially the first person who has heard the podcast and then decided to be on it after hearing it. So one would say that they have been okay so far.
Or you haven't scared people off yet.
Yet.
Thanks,
Maybe
Ming.
maybe
We didn't
we're
scare
saving
you.
we're saving the big guns for you, Ming.
Let's hit
Joke's
it.
on you.
Uh-oh. All the
Oh,
hard
dear.
questions.
Oh dear. All right, so let's the traditional way we've been doing it, I guess we'll kind of stick with that, as in we will just say we'll just ask you, where did you find how did you find our Dragon Boat team?
Fun story. I met someone on the team playing Pokemon Go.
Oh,
Mm,
Pokemon bringing people together.
Yes, and then
always.
saw on his Facebook that he's in Dragon Boat team, and I was like, huh, that sounds like fun, and decided to come out to one of the winter practices last year. And then I was like, oh, okay, the people are nice, and then stuck it out.
Did you know what Dragon Boat was, or you're just like, oh, cool, Dragon Boat?
I knew what Dragon Boat was. I grew up knowing that culture. We have a river back in my hometown where there are Dragon Boat races, but athletics was never my thing, or a thing in my life until Dragon Boat, until joining y'all.
Dang. I remember I think I remember your first practice. You had your Charmander hat on.
Charizard, yes, I have.
Charizard, that's what it was.
Yes,
Yeah.
my Charizard hoodie. Yes,
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
only like beanie cap thing that I had, and it was this bright orange Charizard.
Yeah, I remember thinking like, damn, that guy really likes Pokemon. Maybe he knows some. Maybe he can give me some tips on Pokemon Go, because I was still into it at that point.
Were you?
Yeah. There was like a very quick window that I was really into it.
I
I
think you.
phased out of it pretty
Yeah.
fast.
That
Oh yeah, I
that
think
got phased out.
a lot of people kind of fell. I mean, after that initial,
That like summer
yeah,
it
that
released,
summer.
that like 1 month of
Like,
like
yeah, I remember going to Japan with Pokemon Go and desperately looking for a Farfetch'd because that was only in like that part of the world.
Oh my
what?
gosh. My first Farfetched, I was actually in Hokkaido, like the northern island
Oh,
of
were you?
Japan. Yeah, funny story. And that's when Pokemon Go was released. And I just got a 10-kilometer egg that didn't hatch until it went back to Malaysia and it hatched a Farfetch. So
Oh
I was
man,
the only
lucky you.
person with a Farfetch for a
That's
while.
so cool.
Dang.
Yeah,
You're
that
like,
was fun.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
got my Farfetched.
Take
But everyone has a Farfetch now. They released it everywhere.
Oh, they
takes me
did.
back.
Well,
Oh,
it's a gift egg that you can give each other. Yeah,
Not
that's
as.
how I met the PDPC is through Pokemon Go.
I think that's definitely one of the more unique ways people have found the team. I know typically like people just kind of like search online or
a
heard,
mutual
yeah,
friend.
mutual friend, but
Oh,
Pokemon Go is definitely like one of the weirder ones out there.
yes, I'm a pretty weird person. I take that.
Aren't we all though? We're all pretty
True.
weird.
I love how the team is filled with a whole bunch of weirdos, but we just accept it and celebrate each other's weirdness, and it's beautiful.
It is. It is. And so I guess what about Dragon Boat as a sport like kind of kept your interest? Because like
Mm.
why Dragon Boat versus
Like pickup
tennis?
soccer or
Yeah.
something.
Pick
Yeah.
up
Pick up
soccer.
soccer. Pick up foosball.
I don't think I would ever get into that. But the thing that got me sticking to Dragon Boat or PDBC specifically too is the camaraderie, the teamwork part of it. I know myself and I know that I am not self motivated to work out and all that. But having a team that pushes me to be a better version of myself and everyone is in it together and me wanting to be a part of a team that's all fighting for the same goal that got me to stay with Dragon Boat in general. Oh, it's
Oh,
such a beautiful sport.
that's
Shed a
beautiful.
tear over here.
I know. We're quiet because I'm currently weeping.
Oh, wipe your tears.
I'm one of those criers that like doesn't make sound. Like
Really? You're not like an ugly crier?
I
Like
think
a
I think
Oh,
it depends on the situation.
I am totally an ugly
Are
crier.
you? Are
Uh,
you like are you like by default you'll just immediately go to ugly crying, or do you have like your stages?
it's a stage thing. I go from the single tier thing, and
The
then
the
as
dramatic single tier.
the
That's a good
dramatic
one.
single
That's a good
tier,
one.
and then it builds and it builds, and then it just like the dam just explodes, and it's like.
We
Have
should
fun
have you
editing that.
we should have you on our sound team.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
we could have someone else help edit these episodes. Ming, you got Logic.
I got Logic. I don't do sound though. I only got Logic to cope with this semester of teaching.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, so you so you just bought Logic?
Yes.
What for
Well, for
the
okay, so for anyone who
ill-informed?
doesn't know,
Logic?
Logic is a audio editing program
That's what I assumed.
similar to the one that I use, which is Pro Tools. But the difference is that Pro Tools is more for like movie production audio, whereas Logic is much more catered towards musicians.
Yep.
Both work. Like you can make both programs work for either thing.
Application.
Yes, but it's just it's definitely like easier to use one than
It's
the
like
other.
clearly catered
Oh yeah,
towards
yeah.
one
Yeah.
group.
I like the sound library in Logic better. It sounds more authentic to me, even though I'm
Mm.
using a MIDI keyboard.
Yeah, which you have with us, right?
Yeah,
Play us a little.
a little ditty
Yeah.
without
So
infringing on copyright.
yeah, let's
Yes.
try. Well, how about not play us a copywritten song? Why not help us play a theme song for this podcast?
Oh,
You want to make this the intro or the outro?
Yeah.
let's
It's the
do it.
birth. It's the birth.
Let's see. I'm using a whirly sound. Hold on. Let's scratch that. Woo! Take two.
It's
I have
okay.
all these
That's fine.
cables all around
That's fine. I think I heard a motorcycle anyway.
me.
Damn.
Wow. I love it.
Smooth like butter.
That's your theme song.
That's our theme
Thanks,
song.
Ming.
There you
Ming,
go.
okay, Ming, can you record a beautiful version of that and then send it to us, and we will now slap it onto the beginning of every episode.
Yes, let's do that.
Thank you, Ming.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Ming.
Woo! Around the mic.
Oh, that's actually amazing to me that you managed to just kind of like make that up on the spot.
It's a part of my job actually to be able to make up music
To
that
just like improvise.
improvise. Yeah, that's the main way I work
Yeah.
as a therapist.
Yeah. So okay. So let's dig into that a little.
Ooh.
So you're a therapist and it's music therapy, right?
Yes, I'm a
So-
music therapist.
So how is that any different than like your traditional image of therapy where like patient lays on couch waving their arms around talking about something and the therapist listens with their clipboard?
Well, just to clarify about the verbal talk therapy thing that you're talking about, I don't think people lay in couches anymore unless
Really?
the person insists on doing. That's a very Freudian thing to do, where the therapist is totally removed and just taking notes while the client just sits on that Freudian couch thing and just free associates and talk about their past
Oh.
trauma. And
So that's like an older way of doing it?
It's like an old school, old
that's
thought.
one of the first ways of doing it back in the olden days.
Oh.
Right now, it's just two people sitting across from each other, like how we would have been doing if we were next to each other in person, and just having a talk.
Oh.
Less awkward than sitting, lying on that Freudian couch thing.
Oh, damn, movies have been lying to me all this time.
Well, that's something that people associate with when they're thinking about
Yeah.
therapy.
Yeah, I mean, like even now, like I've seen films where like there's a scene that takes place in therapy, and the client is always lying on a couch,
On a couch.
with the therapist taking notes on a clipboard.
Yeah, and they always have their hands like folded.
Yeah, like
like across
and how
their
does that
stomach.
make you? How does that make you feel?
Like
That's a very commonly asked question, which is pretty accurate. How does that make you feel? You go deeper and deeper into understanding your own processes.
Mhm.
But that's verbal therapy. I'm a music therapist, in which the therapist helps a client using music experiences to help them reach their goals.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
So like how would a typical session go? Like it how does it work differently? Because I mean like with you're saying verbal therapy is just
Mhm.
client talks and then therapist responds with question or
Mhm.
something or other.
Like
And then
why would someone go to you versus a traditional therapist?
yeah, yeah.
Ooh, very good question. For a lot of reasons. So I actually specialize in working with autistic folks, and I am using identity first language as recommended and what is that word? where you advocated by autistic self-advocates or autistic advocates, where they want to be identified as autistic rather than person with autism, which a lot of people still use those terms in the world right now. So anyways, I work with a lot of autistic people, and a lot of folks that come to me are nonverbal, but music, we believe, is a very human thing, a way that we can connect with each other.
Can I
Mhm.
interrupt? What is
Yes.
the difference between someone that's autistic versus um the the two things that you were bouncing off?
Oh, autistic or person with autism.
Yes.
Okay, so according to autistic advocates, and I am learning to be an ally, I don't claim to be an ally right now, but they say that it's just like you or me, we identify as Asian, so we go by Asian person, not person with Asian.
Oh, okay.
Or I'm a guy, so I say I am person, I'm a guy, I don't say I'm person with no
Guy.
private parts.
That's
So,
what a weird way to answer that question. Yeah, or do you identify as male? Yeah, I'm a person with guy parts. Oh, okay.
so is it more of a I don't know if normalization is the correct word.
Yeah, it's
Um,
normalization and destigmatizing what autism means.
okay. Cuz that kind of confused me. I was like, what's the difference? And I guess it shows.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Language is powerful. That's a part of my work as a PhD student,
Okay.
to unpack language. But anyways, I
Okay.
work with
Yes.
a lot of autistic folks and nonverbal autistic folks especially. So we believe that music is an inherently human experience where, okay, for instance, the way a mother can tell a baby's crying, is it a hungry cry, or is it a fussy cry, or is it I poop my pants or poop my diaper kind of cry? They can identify those different kinds of cry by the tone of the cry. They don't know exactly. They can say, oh, that is a descending melody in B flat major. They can't tell that, but mothers instinctively know that. And the first interaction between a parent and child is usually more musical than verbal. You see children babbling, but they're connecting, but they are learning how to inflect their voices to communicate, just by changing the tone or the structure of their communication. So based on that, we believe that people are inherently musical beings, and we tap into that person's music connection to music, and we help them reach their goals.
How do you do that? Like, what does it mean to tap into that musical? I forget the word that you just used.
Relationship.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So in a typical music therapy session, with my folks, usually when we come into the room, I will be playing a greeting song, or
Oh.
just to situate that, hey, this is a safe space or a safer space for us to explore what you want to explore using music. This is a musical space, this is a sacred musical space, and for them to enter into this world. And then after that, we go embark on music making together. And me as a therapist, I have in the back of my mind all the goals that I envision for this client, or we have established between both of us if they're able to, and then we work towards that. Or they might bring up something new that I wasn't aware of, and then we work towards that goal.
So, are these goals what we would normally think of, like anything we're working towards? Or
Yeah.
is it,
Like I think it's hard for us
yeah.
civilians to kind of like picture what it is you're talking about, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean personally speaking, I've never like done therapy in general,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I've never, so like now we're taking it a step even further and going into music therapy, and I like
Mm-hmm.
don't even I can't even fathom like like you're saying you're telling me the process,
Mhm.
but I'm failing to still understand, like, what do you mean when we say you keep in mind the goals that this person's trying to like accomplish, I guess.
So there are many different kinds of goals that a client can address in music therapy. There's physical goals where you're working on fine motor or gross motor skills. There are social emotional goals where you address, like with autistic folks, it's usually emotion identification or emotion expression. With folks who have more psychiatric issues, you usually teach them how to cope with their emotional issues or manage their emotional issues. Um, let's see what else. You can work on social communication skills where you use music as a conduit for communication and work towards verbal or other or musical kinds of communication with each other. So there's a lot of goals that we address. There's also cognitive goals where you work on attention span. You work on paying attention to a task or multitasking or focus on one part or turn taking.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do most humans react similarly to a certain set of sounds? Like if you play like a happy jingle, will you invoke a general happy, joyous emotion? I'm not sure if that it's like language where um
That's a very good question because now we are playing with the concept of aesthetics and we're getting to a little bit heady philosophy here. So we can all three look at the same Mona Lisa painting and all three of us get a different experience out of it. Like I might notice instead of Mona Lisa smile, I might notice her eyebrow more and then wondering what she's thinking. And you might notice something different about Mona Lisa.
okay.
Like, is she farting right now?
I asked that because
I mean, have we looked at that Mona Lisa recently? She could be.
yes, we have.
She was sitting there for a while. Do you think she like sat down and she was like 3 hours
really
in,
need
she's
to
like
use the bathroom.
she's like, Mr. Da Vinci, do you think I could get a pee break? And he's
And
like,
then he'll
do it there.
come over with a bucket.
And he's like, hold it. And that's what that face is. Her like desperately clinging
To not.
To not go to the bathroom right
She's
now.
Like, not today.
So for the viewers who are not watching us right now, we are all making our I must not pee in my pants face right now.
We're all clenching. Clenching
Okay.
really hard. I mean, with the amount of coffee that I've just drank, I might actually be making that face very soon.
Okay.
But anyway.
But it's the same thing with music. Like, this is just a part of the chorus, so this is not going into copyright zone if it's just a couple measures, right?
Okay.
Right?
And now I'm ugly crying.
Yeah.
So Ben is ugly crying. Ross, what's your experience?
Well, I'm also ugly crying, but during our last Chinese session with Ta played that song too, and it's just bringing me back to that session because we're having a translate on the spot by listening to songs, and we were dying laughing.
So, music is so inherently tied to our emotions. Like we're all feeling like we are about to ugly cry, but also our memories. So you are remembering that last Mandarin session with Ta, and I'm thinking about all the karaoke sessions with especially Asian Americans where this is their go-to karaoke song.
Oh yeah, it's not a karaoke session without this song.
Right?
Well, I asked that question because you mentioned when one of your client comes in you'll play like a tune
Mhm.
to greet them, like
Mhm.
how do they just end up learning to associating that like jingle or tune
Mhm.
to this being, hey, you're okay, like you're with me, this is a safe space? Is
Mhm.
that what you're trying to instill, or is it, that's why I asked that question.
Very good question. And this is the answer I give to a lot of my students, all my students, and it frustrates them to no end because the answer is sometimes. Because you're asking about music, which is an art in itself, and therapy, and which is an art in itself, and also about that specific clinical therapeutic moment where the therapist first greets the client, and then the therapist has to make that split-second quick decision about how am I going to play this. Well, by like the third or fourth week, you usually have your greeting song established. That is like the ritual when you come in to help us familiarize or change our mindset to be focused and mindful in that musical space. But if the client comes in like super happy, you don't want something really, really chill going on. You want to match that. Or if they're coming crying, you don't want a super happy version of that song going on. So you have to be able to modify like one song into many, many different
Oh.
styles. So like for that song earlier, right? Sorry, wrong note. But that was super melancholic. But if the client was not in that space, but that's already your greeting song, you go, right? So you have to modify it to change to suit the clinical situation, and you have to be able to move from mood to mood within that one song if you want to be able to take your client on that journey or on a different journey. Like if they're too like ugly crying, but you want to take them out of it a little bit so we can process it instead of staying in the ugly cry mode, which you can't process much, verbally talk about anything. But then you have to like use the music to bring them out of that a little bit to put them in a calmer place.
Oh. So you're essentially establishing a theme song
Mm-hmm.
for like the person, and then
Mm-hmm.
based on where they are, it's just happy, sad, heroic.
Yeah,
Oh.
anything playful. You can bring back established themes, or you can create new themes
Mm-hmm.
for future sessions, or it can be a one-time and done theme.
Wow, those are my favorite themes, one and done themes.
Uh
Our outro every time.
huh.
The ones I'll never hear again.
Yeah, but that example of how we use music. Another example is let's see. Well, Rox, you were asking about what if somebody coming in crying. There's a song that was composed for music therapy called the Crying Song. It's oh, when you feel like crying, oh, when you feel like crying, just cry, just cry. But this song was written where in a way that it can be both F major and D minor, which are related, like related keys. They have the same key signature, but you don't establish if it's F major or D minor because people usually associate major keys with happy, minor keys
Mm-hmm.
with sad. But having it ambiguous allows the client to associate whatever emotion they are having with that song instead of you imposing that you're crying, you must be sad right now.
Huh. Do you have you ever had a client that just like rejects the idea of the music?
Oh yeah, totally, all the time. And
Really?
like you have to, so that's why there's all this training to be a music therapist. You have to be able to notice what the client is doing and notice how they're reacting to the music so you can make changes, or if they outright refuse it or like outright hate the song. You have to know how to manage the situation and explore more of that. Like if somebody um that famous Chinese song that we will not name right now. I don't know, it's copyright. If somebody has like negative associations with that song and the therapist plays that in the session, not knowing about that negative association because you can't, there's no way to tell unless you bring it up. You have to be able to manage that situation. If it's a past trauma that you want to work through with the client, or like make a mental note that maybe this is a song that we unpack later in down the road.
This kind of raises the question, what led you to become a music therapist?
Very good question. My mom and I tell two different stories, but I'm going to tell my story. Uh, so I was I studied piano like most other Asian kids in the world since I was 6, and then continued playing piano up till I was in high school. I was the school pianist, so I knew that music was going to be a big part of my life. And then my parents decided they wanted to send me to America to study. I'm from Malaysia, by the way, for all you viewers who don't know me, or listeners, I guess. So I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, yeah, you can choose any major you want, but not music education. We don't see a life of teaching piano for you. And I was like, kind of agreeing. And I knew that I don't practice enough to be a performer. So I just Googled around for music majors. I was like, oh, music therapy. I get a Bachelor of Science in Music Therapy and a minor in psychology. That opens up my options a lot when I graduate. So my parents were like, okay, yeah, you can go try that, but we want you to be a pharmacist or a real estate person.
Real
But
estate.
my dad owns some properties in Malaysia, and I'm the eldest son. His eldest son.
Are you crazy rich?
I am not crazy rich. I am working class comfortable. Working class comfortable. But yeah, they allowed me to try music therapy, hoping that I would change my major. But once I got into it, and once I started doing sessions as a student, being supervised, I just fell in love with this profession, and I went all the way up to, or still doing my PhD in music therapy. So that is severely limiting my career options in the future.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a whole lot of people looking for this, specifically your type of profession at the moment.
The job market is pretty okay right now.
Really?
In the US. Yeah. We have at least like 5 or 6,000 music therapists in the US. And in Malaysia, we have about 15, and they are eagerly waiting for me to go back in the future because they need more music therapists there. Like people are noticing that music therapy is a established healthcare profession, and that there is a lot to be gained from this form of healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, I think therapy in general is getting like a much better rep these days, with the whole like mental health, I guess, movement.
Yeah.
Kind of taking hold now. So like a lot more people are talking about that, the self-care stuff.
Yeah, it's not just self-care. Like I firmly believe that anybody and everybody should go to therapy. Not because that you have, not only when you have a specific issue that you want addressed, but there's always some part of us that you are not aware of because you are biased towards yourself. And having a trained therapist with a more objective point of view to guide you through that is extremely beneficial.
So were you like kind of, so you didn't start out looking for therapy as like a profession, but so like when is it that you kind of like, because I feel like we're hearing a lot of like, you care about this, you care a lot about what you do, so like was there a moment when you realized like, oh, I don't have to just play music. I can actually do it to help people, as opposed to just, I mean, entertaining.
Yeah, I guess it happened when I was an undergrad, and I was already in music therapy already. In the music therapy program. Sorry, not receiving music therapy, but I was already in a music therapy major.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched this video of people who would be my supervisors in New York, uh, far down the future. Well, already past it now. The timeline is weird. It's timey-wimey. Timey-wimey.
Oh, sick
uh,
Doctor Who reference, dog.
Thank you. Thank you. It's timey-wimey. But anyways, I saw this video of these two music therapists who were helping a group of folks who had developmental disabilities, and there was this kid who was bullied on the bus, and then he was expressing his anger, and the therapist was like, "Oh, what would you want to do?" And he's like, "I'm gonna kick him to London," and then they immediately improvise the uh, that like famous like British theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's the kind of music therapist I want to be, the one who can improvise and be musically there to accentuate and to support my clients' experiences through music. And that's why I went down this route of being a Northrop Robbins music therapist, which is an advanced training in music therapy. It's too deep and crazy to get into this podcast, but
So
I don't know. We got time.
what? Long story short, is an advanced method or approach in music therapy where we primarily use music improvisation, paying attention to the details of music and the musical connection to help the clients, as opposed to other forms of music therapy out there, such as neurologic music therapy, where neurologic music therapists use music to prime the brain to work on rehabilitation goals. So music triggers the brain to work on certain motor functions and such, and it's a whole chain reaction there. Or psychodynamic music therapy, where you use, well, it's sort of what I do anyways, where you use the music experience to explore the the relationship of the person with other people and with themselves. Or cognitive behavioral music therapists, where you use music to address their behavioral issues and understand the reasoning behind it, and the cognitive processes that leads the person towards those behaviors, and then help modify those cognitive thoughts and behaviors using music experiences.
Oh, there's so many.
Did I mention that I'm doing my PhD in music therapy right now?
Dang, I didn't know. I didn't know. I mean, there's so many little categories. Which is the one that you're focusing on?
It's called Northrop Robbins Music Therapy, and it's most commonly known as a music-centered approach for music therapy. I know it's quite ironic because you're a music therapist, you use music all the time, but in music-centered music therapy, we believe that music is a primary process where all the therapy happens, and that we are addressing a person's musical self that could translate into the person's whole self. But we are more concerned about the person's musical self and the music that goes on in session and the musical relationship that we're developing.
Did this take a lot of explaining to your parents when you told them about you going into this route?
It's rough when I first started, because I get excited about music therapy and they're like, good for you. I remember my dad, when I first got board certified to be a music therapist, that means I finished my undergrad training and received 1,500 hours of supervised clinical training, and went back to Malaysia. And I was like, hey, I have to sit for a board exam first and pass that. And then went back to Malaysia. I was like, hey, Dad, I got my board certification to practice music therapy. And then he just like very, very Chinese dad like. He stood up and shook my hand. He's like, "Congratulations," and that's it. I'm like, "What the?"
I feel like that's the equivalent of him going,
Exactly.
"I'm very proud of you." I have no idea what that means.
It wasn't until like I started doing my master's and I started to give like presentations in Malaysia whenever I would go back to visit that they started to understand what I was doing, because I would give a lot of case examples. I have videos of me doing music therapy with clients, and they were like, "Oh, this is what you do."
I have a burning question. I
Yes.
have
Oh.
zero musical ability and capability. I just listen to it and enjoy it. But then it brings me to ask, the two of you have like music and sound experience. Do you guys want to like discuss that? Because you guys are in different, totally different like realms. Because I mean, you do like music therapy, which is this whole other thing, and then
I
you like edit sounds, which is like this whole other thing. They're like related, but not.
Yeah.
Well, they are
Mhm.
related. I mean, music and sound are, are essentially like cousins.
My take.
Um,
This is gonna get philosophical again, because
fuck yeah, let's do it, dude.
let's do it. Oh, I
Let's
didn't know
do
we
it,
can
brother.
drop the F-bomb here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have any.
Sponsors.
There are no rules right now. You can do whatever you want.
There are no rules. Okay, so music. What makes sound music?
Are you asking
Rocks.
me?
I'm asking Rocks because
Oh,
she
ooh,
she ripped this band-aid.
yeah. you
Come
want
on,
to
Rocks.
dive into this? All right, let's dive into this.
What makes sound music?
I guess there's like certain characteristics of music tends to be like a certain, well, it's pleasant to listen to,
Mm-hmm.
and some characteristics tend to be like it's repetitive in a sense. In a
Okay.
sense,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't know the science or whatever behind it, but
Huh.
there's
Let's
like
unpack that a little bit. So it's pleasant to listen to. That means that you people enjoy it. So there's an aesthetic quality to it that people enjoy, right?
yes,
And then there are it's repetitive. That implies that there are certain themes that gets brought back, right? So like a chorus of a song that comes back like 3 times in a song. In a standard pop song, you have verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, right? So the chorus comes back. So there, it's purposeful. It's people purposefully make these sounds for an aesthetic, communicative purpose, which is quite different to, let's say, I personally find the beach where we load the OC, like
Mm-hmm.
the sound of the waves lapping up there. It's pleasant. I enjoy that sound. Like I could just sit at that bank when there's nobody loading the OCs and just like chill and enjoy that sound of Skookle. Um, but does it make it music?
I don't think so.
Not
Right?
by that definition,
I
but
don't
Yeah.
know
but then
why.
I would also argue that like the lines are very very blurry between what is sound and what is music, because
Mm-hmm.
music is sound is not necessarily music depending on the definition.
Mm-hmm.
But like, if using that same example, I would say yes, pleasant to listen to, but it's also repetitive in a sense that it does
Mm-hmm.
have a beat to it. Like the
Mm-hmm.
beat is just the pushing and pulling of the water, and
Mm-hmm.
then by association, you are then associating that sound with calmness or whatever. So by that definition, I would say no. I mean, it could be. You could argue that it is music.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, there's no like tune. There's no melody
Mm-hmm.
that's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be like, if you boil it down, like that is truly the only thing that separates music and like quote unquote sound.
Then what about John Cage's stuff? Like 3 minutes,
I
44 seconds.
I am not familiar.
So John Cage is this 20th century composer who uses sounds of the environment as main material for his composition. So there's this is it 5 minutes or 3 minutes? I have to Google. John Cage. Oh, 4 minutes 33 seconds. I got the number mixed up. Basically it's just full on rest for the entire piece. But for him it's intentional because he composed it that way that the sounds of the environment or the concert hall or whatever is the aesthetic, is the sound. Um, that being said, in music there is melody and then there are rests. Like a combination of that makes it a melody or harmony or whatever. So John Cage just took it a step further and made it all rests.
So wait, I guess we should include a link to
Yes.
whatever song you're referring to in the description in our
Cage,
in our
4
show
minutes
notes.
33 seconds.
Okay, so he's playing music and then he literally just stops.
No music is being played. You can hold your instrument if you want to, but you don't play a single blessed song.
And that's the performance? Well, all right. Well, I mean, I think I have my own opinions on what that is, but so okay, wait, because I pulled up the video. I'm not playing it, but I'm looking at the screenshot, and it's literally this guy sitting at a piano, and that's it.
Exactly.
Okay, so what? Okay, but so then, what is his goal? Like, why did he do that?
I think he
wanted.
We're going into modern art now.
We are.
If you think with visual art, you've seen in the MoMA of like a canvas, just a blank canvas, and somebody puts it there, and then the purpose is not for you to appreciate the blankness of that canvas, but for you to notice, to have a deeper appreciation of that blank. I'm guessing canvas white is what I'm going to call it. To appreciate canvas white and to have canvas white stick out to you when you walk around in the rest of the MoMA, or when you step outside and you look out the clouds and that whiteness of the clouds triggers that memory of, or the canvas white deepens your understanding of the whiteness of the clouds. That being said, I'm guessing John Cage's purpose for 4 minutes 33 seconds is for you to, because when you're in a concert hall, you, especially in a classical concert environment where you sit in a chair and you focus on the music, and so all your senses are being diverted to your audio sensorial stuff, and then you're trying to figure out what the musician is trying to play, but there's no sound at all. So what other sounds come? So the person next to you shifting their chair, the air conditioning,
playing with the pamphlet.
So that becomes the focus.
So it's kind of like an embrace of the environment, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, back to the original question, I would perhaps argue that that's not music. You're just that is just pure ambient sound, which you know, like, personally, I feel like that is in its own way like a different version of an art form.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But like, would not classify as music.
Yeah. I totally see your point, and which brings me back to Rox's first association of both of us.
Damn, we got really far.
Where she's like, this is something that happened in the first 2 weeks of PDPC, because you were in their bed at my first week of winter training. Yeah. I don't know where you were. And then people
probably sleeping in. I was probably drunk.
I didn't know about that culture yet. But it could be. I'm not saying anything. But once I tell folks in PDPC that I am a music therapist, I'm a musician, they're like, oh, you should meet Ben. He does sound. You all have lots to talk about. And then we met each other, and I brought up this, and then we were like, we have almost nothing to talk about with our professions. Because I see the both of us working with similar material, which is audio files or audio like data, but in totally different ways.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
I mean,
this is like
it's basically like us working in the same company, but in like very different departments
Mhm.
that
okay.
like have to interact with each other every once in a while. But
Mhm.
you know, a lot of the times we're kind of like in our own worlds.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is kind of like a question when someone asks me, "Oh, what do you do?" And I tell them I'm a chemical engineer, and then
Nah,
they're
you
like,
make
"Oh,
missiles.
yeah, I make missiles." Well, I tell them I'm a chemical engineer, and then they're like, "Oh, you do like chemistry and stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, but in a different way."
Yeah.
So I guess that's how the question hits you guys as well.
But also like yes, you know, there's a lot of times where I like for me in my industry, we like I am constantly having to communicate with the music people because you know, like sound, um you know, depending on how you work sound, you can make it into like something ambient or maybe even like musical tonal stuff, which, you know, music can also do. So it's very much like who's going to put sound on this scene for, and it could be either music or it could just be like me diddling with a bunch of toys. But speaking of putting sound on a scene, how about we do some of those musical stuffs for this podcast, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
Please make our outro too.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we can do that.
Yeah. I mean,
It
it could.
has to include scat sounds.
No, I think we should improvise a scat at the end of every time.
Oh, yes.
I like that. And then
Yes.
it just fades out.
Or like I can give you a whole series of like maybe 20 or 30 like tracks, like backing tracks, and then each time you have a guest, like their outro is all three of you scat together.
That's a great outro.
That's what we've been doing. Well, usually it's just Ben scatting, and then I will make like other sounds.
Yeah. Well, definitely with Colleen, the last episode, that's what we did.
Nice.
Where were we? What were we talking about?
Oh my gosh,
We went
sorry. I
so
went down a
far.
rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We went down a very far rabbit hole.
Yeah. These
Do we
are
want to bring it back to Dragon Boat, or do you want to focus on music and
I mean,
life?
I think the music therapy thing is like it. That I think that's like a huge part of you, you know, and you care a lot about it. So, and like, you know, a lot of people, you know, when we talk about it just in conversation, it's like, oh, what do you do, Ming? I'm a music therapist. Oh, cool. So I think like really having the opportunity to like kind of really flesh out what it is that you actually do is like really cool. But let's bring it back to Dragon Boat. So like, were you ever like sporty? Like what was, other than like, oh, I've heard of this, and this, I met this dude on Pokemon Go who introduced me to this. Like, what was the driving factor that pushed you to like try this sport?
Huh. Let's see. When I first moved to Philadelphia, I knew that I wanted to change my lifestyle a little bit, and I wanted to get into physical activity. So for the first 3 years, and I would have continued this year if we weren't in COVID situation, I started doing Chinese martial arts, specifically Shaolin and Tai Chi styles. And then after a few years, I kind of plateaued with my progress. And then when I met James, the other Pokemon Go, I just
You heard it here. You heard it here, folks. It was James.
Which James? Are there more than one James? Figure out in the next episode.
Where we bring James.
And we asked specifically about Pokemon. Anyways, met James, and then that was also after a few weeks of me watching China's version of Running Man, where they had a Dragon Boat episode.
I'm sorry. What?
China has their own version of Running Man.
Really? Wait, no. I'm thinking of the dance move Running Man. What are you referring to?
Is Running Man the game show?
The Korean game show.
Oh.
The Korean game show.
Because I was just picturing a bunch of Chinese people dancing at clubs, but doing like dragon boat moves, like their version of the Running Man. And I'm like, that's not cool. Or maybe it is. Maybe I'm not thinking of it right.
No, it's that game show, celebrity game show, where they tried dragon boating, and they did it for 2 episodes, and just their story of how they tried dragon boat and all that got me very it was touching to see that relief post race. That holy crap, that was a 2K that we just completed. That relief of a 2K.
So just to like jump ahead just a little, how did it feel when you did your first 2K? Were you like, did you think back to that moment, going like, oh god, no, it's so much worse?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna relate this to a story I just told Rox a few days ago. That Henry and I were chatting Saturday night, and he sent me this picture of us completing the 2K in Mercer, and that was my first 2K race. First and only 2K race.
That was your only 2K
throwing
race?
up for you.
That was my first year.
Oh,
I didn't go to
oh yeah, that's right.
I didn't go to Canada with y'all to do that 2K, but that was the end of my first 2K.
That was Canada's 2K was very scary.
I've heard the stories.
Oh yeah, that boat flipping?
The just real quick, the boats they had there were extremely tippy, and I swear we were gonna tip because another team's boat tipped, like straight up flipped over. And I was like, oh, if it's gonna happen, it's gonna be now. And everyone just ran and grabbed their PFDs. Like,
oh my god.
Oh my gosh. But no, that first 2K, it was such a relief, and I was on that boat as a sub because I didn't do the first 200 and the 5. No, I wasn't in the 500 meter races, and so I was in there as one of maybe two or three other members with fresh arms, and then I was like, that pressure I put on myself. As being a fresh paddler on that boat, I was like, okay, my teammates are tired. I have to pick up the slack. I have to do more. And just pushing and pushing and pushing for those like 10 plus minutes, it was exhilarating, especially with Antonio yelling like, they're gaining on us at the back. It was just a very powerful moment. And that picture that Henry sent me was like, you completed your first 2K, and we're not sure if I'll be racing with y'all after this year or ever, if I finish my PhD and I move somewhere else. But yeah, that was a powerful moment.
Yeah, you should frame that picture.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I mean, that is a very like, I guess like a good realization when you're in the thick of a race. You don't actually like your mind. I mean, maybe some people who can focus on different things, but I like personally, it seems like you and I share this, is that we're like very in the zone, I guess, and like I can barely think of anything else other than I'm really tired. But yeah, having that like the thought creep of like you can't let up. Like everyone else is still trying. You have to keep trying. Is a huge motivator, and I think probably one of the differences in Dragon Boat versus like any other sport that I've encountered, at least.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm not saying that I did other sports before this, but I wouldn't have gone into that physical shape like to paddle for the regionals
Mm.
if it weren't for the weekly practices and being motivated by everyone and just the nature of being on the boat together.
Mm-hmm.
You remember what I looked like before water season and then what I look like after. Like, it's day and night.
Yeah, I mean, you got into great shape. Was that intimidating? Like when you when you first joined the team and it was, or not even when you joined the team, when you like attended your first few practices, was that intimidating when you went through all that?
It was, and then I know it's common for folks to um not look down upon, but like we are concerned that if people stop paddling mid practice to catch a break and all that, and I certainly am a culprit of like doing it a lot my first few weeks, but then it's through week after week of training and then going out to OC with y'all that I build up the endurance and knowing what muscles to use when I'm paddling, or if certain parts get tired, knowing that, oh wait, I'm using too much arms or whatever, I have to use more back. Knowing how to cope with that, and then got me to where I was by the end of last season. Yeah, it was intimidating, but part that I went into sports knowing that I'm starting from negative. So whatever self-doubt that comes my way, or even like coach's instructions that come my way, I take it not disparagingly, because I knew I already accepted that I don't know anything about this. I'm here to learn. I'm here to better myself. So while some other folks might be discouraged when they get called out for dropping their paddle or stop paddling mid practice, or not being as good in shape as other people, I knew that I was starting from negative, and there's only up. So I came in with that kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, because that made me think about when I started Dragon Boat, because I also didn't do sports ever. And then I do remember, like, I was a bit bummed at times, to be honest. But that's an awesome mindset when you start anything new.
Yeah, like that's the thing to remember. And yeah, anyone who starts anything brand new, like you're gonna feel kind of weird. It's gonna feel awkward, and
You're gonna suck.
Yeah, you're gonna suck.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna suck for a while, and like it's just a matter of like pushing through that, like the awkward haircut phase, pretty much, and just getting to the point where things start clicking. But you've never done any other sports though, right?
Nothing else. Nada.
Ooh. Do you want to tell us about the Chinese martial arts?
Oh,
Yeah, that's a sport.
That's a sport, but even with that, like I didn't do anything other before that. I specifically didn't do anything other than outside of that. And with martial arts, I see it as a philosophical slash having my body getting in tune with nature kind of practice, rather than I am here to kill everyone with my swords. Ross's face, super like,
I'm here to learn how to kick ass.
It would be cool to know how to kick ass, and I think I can hold my own a little bit, not against dang it, what is Kat's brother's name? David?
Yeah.
David. I certainly will lose horribly against David. But I mean, he's an MMA fighter.
Oh, is he an MMA fighter? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Have you?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, David's an MMA fighter.
Oh, dang. You know, all those videos on his Instagram start to make sense now.
When he's doing those rapid punches up on the rooftop.
Yeah, I'm like, oh dang, he's working out. Nope.
He's actually training his speed punches.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Oh my god.
But when I first moved to Philadelphia, I wanted I I was exploring all the martial arts schools here in Philly, and I specifically did not want to explore Wing Chun just
Why?
because a lot of people do it.
It is
I wanted
very
to.
common now.
It is very common, especially with the popularity of Bruce Lee and Ip Man.
Hmm.
So I wanted to try something outside of that school of martial arts, and I found this school down in southeast Philly,
So,
southish Philly, by you actually, Rocks. At
I know you mentioned it.
Yeah, by 13th and Carpenter.
Oh wow, yeah, that's close.
Yeah, it's called Northern Wushu um, Kung Fu School. I think I forgot the full name. Um, but I went there and I started off learning Tai Chi, and then once I got Tai Chi, I started learning the school specific like martial arts form, which is called Beifong. Uh, and then after that, I learned some basic animal style movements and then incorporate the wushu fan, like
mm,
fan in those art forms. And then the most recent form I learned was bakwa, and
uh,
that's it.
do you have a
And then
favorite?
COVID hit. I really enjoy bakwa because it's so fluid and it's known for its unpredictability with its
That's
footsteps.
a what's the word?
Bagua,
Two
it's
two opposites when you put two words together, but the words literally are two opposites.
wait, what?
Uh,
No, Bagua in Canto or Mando sometimes means like you're a
do you mean
busybody,
do you
a
mean
nosy,
oxymoron?
Yeah, that's what I was
oxymoron.
looking because you were like, I like how fluid it is, but I also like that it's like random or like
Unpredictable.
unpredictable.
Yeah.
There we
So
go.
it's so fluid in the footsteps, your opponent doesn't know where you're going next. And you can evade and counter and turn their attack upon themselves.
Hmm. So
Okay.
I, I mean, I've very briefly took martial arts when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you mention form, I'm thinking of like, okay, well here's like a 4 to 5 minute piece where I am now performing the
Mm-hmm.
the the performance
Yeah.
pretty much. But do you do you learn to apply those moves like in sparring in your school?
Not our school. Our school started off as a sparring school, but now it's more of a lifestyle and philosophy school.
Mm-hmm.
So our teacher is practices Taoism and Buddhism very heavily, and that's actually what I enjoy most of the school. It incorporates the spiritual and the intellectual and the physical all in one package.
So, as someone with zero martial arts background,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about yoga when you
Mm-hmm.
talk about these things because
Mm-hmm.
yoga, yes, there's like these set of movements, you do them, but also
Mm-hmm.
there's like depending on the person and if they would like to, there is like a spirituality to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I guess like what's like a session like? Do you like learn a set of movements and then explain?
What does the class entail, and how do you get all that knowledge, right?
Yes.
So usually when you're in class, you start off like Monday classes. We focus on internal strength, like internal chi stuff. So you start off with warm ups with vinyasa, like yoga vinyasa, mixed with wushu, mostly tai chi type and qigong type movements. So you are through that series of exercises of movements, you get more in tune with your qi and your dantian, which is your inner core, around your navel area of your body. And then after you get that, you go into styles of wushu that uses more inner chi techniques. So, for instance, Tai Chi or Bagua are those forms.
Mm.
And then on Thursdays and Saturdays, it's more outer style martial arts. So our school's form, Beifang, is a combination of a lot of different like outer style martial arts forms. So Shaolin and then Tangquan, all those different styles are mixed into a series. This like 4 different quarters of that form. Usually lasts about, the way I do them is super slow. It's like 5 minutes, but my Si Hang can do it within like 2 or 3 minutes because they're way faster than I am. Funny story. One of my Si Hang actually did was family friends with Henry's
Oh,
family, and I think they did land dance a while ago when they were kids.
oh, small
Oh,
world.
Small world.
Yeah.
Like, there's another thing. I felt like once I got to PDPC, I know most of the Asian American community within Philly. Like, everybody's connected.
Yeah, there's often less than 2 degrees of separation with
Mm-hmm.
anyone in the Asian community here. So you mentioned the like philosophy
Mm-hmm.
of kung fu, and
Mm-hmm.
so what is like the philosophy of it that attracted you to it? Just so that like for people who have never done it and who are not
Mm-hmm.
like aware.
Mm-hmm. So these are in the children's class, for example, the teacher would ask at the end of class, every time at the end of class, what is martial arts? Wusu. What is practice of skill? Gong fu. Why do we practice? To make ourselves better. So that already is ingrained in everyone, to make ourselves better. Just imagine like kids from like 5-year-old to 12-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
all like South Philly inner city black kids, just in a row. Very cute, just saying that after practice, like, super tired. But then for the adults class, at the end of class, we'll do our bowing ceremony. But then the teacher will be asking us Taoist philosophies about treasures of heaven, which are the sun, moon, and stars; treasures of earth, which is fire, water, air; and treasures of men, um, mind, spirit, chi. So we go through all these, so we become more mindful of these elements when we are out in the world.
Mm.
And then practicing Tai Chi, um, we learn about being moderate in everything we do, which is that you come from a place of the middle ground, and however nature evolves around you, you go with it instead of working against it. So that's a Tai Chi Taoist philosophy
Mm.
about. It's a very naturist philosophy. So these are some examples of the philosophy that we get into while learning a style and as a part of the whole school's
Yeah.
practice.
Do you find that these are applicable in like other sports too? Like this philosophy, if you were to think about it in through the lens of like Dragon Boat, like
Mm-hmm.
how would you translate that into it, like this a different sport?
I think for paddling example, for example, like we are so focused on there is a certain technique that our team uses, which is unique compared to some other teams' technique. And it, for me, I practice the mindfulness stuff with it because I want to focus on my form. I want to focus on how I'm entering the water, how my paddle's entering the water, how it's exiting the water. I want to focus on nature and everything around me at the same time. So being in that place of objectivity. So especially when I'm tired, like we get tired like towards the end of practice, and that's when I focus on being more mindful with my technique instead
Mm.
of I'm so tired. When are we gonna freaking stop? When are we gonna be called off? Like just go into that mindful space and focusing on the technique rather than being sloppy just because you're 10 minutes away from the ending.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good like advice for someone like just entering Dragon Boat.
Yeah. It works for me too at music therapy. I felt like I was more mindful as a therapist and being able to objectively look at and clinically look at the situation and adapting to it or working with it
Mm.
as unpredictabilities come up in sessions all the time.
So cool.
You're more than welcome to come visit. It's at Hawthorne Cultural Center at 13th and Carpenter when COVID lifts.
Ooh, nice plug. So I
Lawsuit
guess
will like that.
I guess we'll like kind of wrap it up here. But do you have any parting words for maybe potential people interested in either Dragon Boat or martial arts or music therapy or whatever you want?
Those are three very separate things.
But the philosophy is all intertwined, Ming. You just told us.
That's so true. I would say try new things in life and always come from a place of humbleness. You're never an expert. You'll never be an expert at anything in life. So put your pride down and learn.
Damn.
Thank you, Ming. That was
Damn,
so
that was
good. was
smooth
good.
like butter. All right, cool. Well, I think that'll be that. This now we're clocking in at almost an hour, maybe a little bit more than an hour. I think.
Oh crap! I was like, it's 2:38. Did we go over?
I think we definitely did, but
I don't think
but
we ever go over.
but it's
we
been
chop
been a very good conversation and a very
Yes.
I think
good.
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
So where can our listeners follow you or reach out to you on social media, Ming?
At Ming Yuan Low, which is spelled MingyuanLow. The link is below. Maybe we should
Wow.
start putting links on YouTube.
Yeah, maybe we'll
We put links?
start doing that. Yeah.
Is that for the
Is that on the gram?
Instagrams?
That's on the Instagrams. Yes, find me
Damn.
there.
Hell yeah.
The Instagrams?
Yeah. And
Instagrams.
Roxanne, where can our listeners follow you?
On the Instagrams at Roxboxing, ROXBOXING. And Ben, what about you?
You can follow me at Wonganite on Instagram. That's B Wong WONGONITE. Cool. Thank you so much, Ming. Play us out.
Oh gosh.
That was great.